everyone, my name is Teresa and today I am doing my September Jurassic TBR wrap-up. Hey guys, like I said, I am doing the wrap-up specifically related to Jurassic TBR. I read a lot more books in September than were on my TBR, but I'm thinking about doing a separate video for that because otherwise it'd just be super long. And you specifically see my Jurassic TBR, so I want to talk about the books I read for that. I also had my Cryptid Creatures readathon, so I'll probably do a wrap up for that. And then maybe just talk about other books I've read. I don't really know, you guys. I'm trying to do this in a way that is easy for me and not as long for you. So in today's video, I will just be talking about the books that I read in September that were specifically on my Jurassic TBR, which if you don't know what that is my TBR game that I play every month to help me pick my books. So I figured also probably how I'll do it from now on, at least for a while, kind of feel it out, is maybe just do wrap-ups specifically for my TBR, and then if I read other books during the month, we can talk about it in other ways. But let's get into the TBR for September. Which, how are we already in October, guys? This is absolutely wild. So in September, I had 6 prompts, which was ridiculously nice and amazing. Usually my game is much meaner than that. But I had 6 prompts. Out of the 6, I read 3, I DNF'd 1, and then the other 2, I just didn't read. So let's talk about it. Okay, my very first prompt was to read a thriller, and I chose to read Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I did read this one, and I gave it a 4.75. This was a beautifully told book. I think the main reason why it wasn't a 5-star was because there was some sexual content in here that just personally I'm not a fan of. So that, dropped it down a tad bit, which some people might disagree with me that should drop a rating, but this is my ratings. I rate for myself, for my enjoyment. I don't rate analytically, I rate personally enjoyment. So just, you gotta deal with it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here that made me not do quite a 5-star. I don't know. It just didn't have that. There was just something missing. The way that I rate my books is very much just by feeling, okay? I don't really think much into it. It's how to make me feel. That's really how I rate them. And this gave me a 4.75. It just wasn't quite that 5-star, but it was so good. It was sad and sweet and haunting, and maybe I should tell you what it's about, right? In this book, we are following a family who are basically the last people on this island that is the world's largest seed bank. They are down off the coast of New Zealand. So in the audiobook, I recommend it because all of the voice actors have Australian and New Zealand accents, and it's great. This is a dystopian type of story that has to do with climate change. Fires have been ravaging the countryside, or the state, or the country, wow, of Australia, which, we saw that back in, I think, 2020, but in here it's more prominent. Things have happened. The sea levels are rising, and so this island is basically being swallowed by the sea. And so that, the family is struggling with that, this is their home. And we know that there is something that has happened in here from very early in the book that has put a rift between the oldest daughter and the father. So it's the father and his daughter and his 2 sons. One of his sons is quite young, and the other 2 children are teenage years, late teenagers. So basically what happens is this woman washes up on shore, shipwrecked, washes up on shore, and they're like, who are you? Why are you here? Because no one comes to this island without a purpose. And they nurse her back to health and trying to find out, some of her secrets. And we are getting her point of view. We see actually a point of view from all of the characters in here, which is really cool. I personally love multiple point of view. And I gotta say, the voice actor for the dad, the male main character in here, he sounded a lot like Hugh Jackman. And I'm like, yes. A lot of this book, I was like, I don't know if I like the character because I like the character or because I like this voice actor. I don't know. But he had a very pleasing to the ear voice. I don't even know how to say that, but I did like listening to his voice. It was very, very nice to listen to. And what else about this book? So yeah, her writing is beautiful, very atmospheric. We do have a lot of science in this book, but it's told in such a way that I think people who aren't into science like I am could still really enjoy and love this book. It's definitely a mystery thriller, but it's also slightly speculative, and it is slightly litfic. Like it feels like it's definitely a mix of a lot of different genres. I would say it's definitely more on the litfic side as far as the writing style and the story goes, but we are having this mystery of who is this woman, why is she here, and we also know that the father is hiding a secret and hiding something as well, again, that, you know, put a rift between him and his daughter, but we don't know what it is. I do love that they are so connected to the island. They're so connected to the wildlife here. Daughter, like, basically, like, lives with the seals and helps the seals, and they have, like, albatross and penguins and things. They name them, and they're all really close with the animals. I mean, as much as, you know, you can be with a wild animal, but I really just love the things that happen in this book as far as the interactions with the wildlife, the interactions with the animals. There is some really heavy topics, some really heavy things that happen in here. I'm trying to think of, like, if there's stuff I could say without spoiling, because unfortunately some things people may consider spoilers. Look up trigger warnings if you need them. We'll just say that. We don't know throughout this book, you know, these characters, the way they're interacting. The woman who is here, she's suspicious of the family is suspicious of her, and so you're really kind of dealing with this, like, interpersonal relationships with these characters, while also hearing their own personal backstories and learning about each individual person and why they feel connected to the island, or they want to leave or they want to stay. I don't know if I'm doing a really good job at explaining this book, you guys, but it's very atmospheric. I wouldn't say it's flowery writing, but I like litfic, right? Like, it's definitely more on that side of the writing spectrum. I think I would say I would like more medium paced, and I definitely say it'd probably be a mixture between plot and character driven. I am a plot driven reader myself, but we do see the characters really grow through this and kind of are learning their backstory and learning who they are, which I definitely enjoyed too. There's, like I said, there's a lot of secrets in here, and there's a lot of just things that are, like, very, very tragic and sad, and it's beautifully sad, like hauntingly sad, I guess I could say. The ending definitely made me cry a little bit. I got teary at the ending, and I need to, like, outline for myself how to do book reviews, because I don't script my videos. I'm sure you guys can tell. I just kind of talk about how I feel, but I don't know if there's anything, like, specific you're looking for in a book that I'm talking about. Like, do you want to know anything specific? Again, it's multiple POV. We're in a slightly futuristic, like, world. I don't know what else to say other than this was a really good book. I very, very much enjoyed it. Like I said, a 4.75. It was almost a 5-star. Her writing style is very, very beautiful, and I think very easy to get into and get wrapped into. Very atmospheric and very nature focused, which personally I loved. So that was for thriller, Wild Dark Shore. Okay, let's move on. Then I had to draw from my TBR jar, which is this little guy back here. And that's always scary, because I have a lot of things in my TBR that some I really want to read, some I don't. Some are huge books and some are tiny books. And the one that I drew just happened to be Arabian Nights. And this is illustrated by Earl Goodnow. The author is anonymous. They don't know the actual origins of the story, from my understanding. And I didn't read it. I just didn't get to it, you guys. This didn't fit in anywhere. I was, like, not in the mood to read this at all. I'm a massive mood reader, so if I'm not in the mood for something, it's very difficult for me to pick it up. So unfortunately, that means my little Arabian Nights sticker, card, whatever, slip is going to go back into the jar to be possibly drawn again. This is a cool edition. I mean, it's got illustrations and different things. So this is Arabian folklore, or for folk tales. It's a collection of short stories, and that's really all I know about it. I just know this is a classic, and it's very, very old literature. but I didn't read it, so it's going back to the pile, unfortunately. Then I landed on nonfiction-owned TBR, which is kind of funny. I landed on those back to back, and I chose to read The United States of Cryptids, A Tour of American Myths and Monsters by J.W. Oker. This was a fun one. This was the unofficial group book read for the readathon. Unofficial because I forgot to mention it in the announcement video, but a few of us read from this book, and basically it just goes through the different sections of the United States and talks about the cryptids that you can find there. So we have the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West, and a little bit of information about the author and just some information about cryptozoology in general. This is illustrated. We have, you know, full page illustrations. We also have little illustrations here. Some of these illustrations are really weird. I don't know if the author illustrated them or if somebody else did. It doesn't really say, but it kind of is just like it's a nonfiction. It has the information about the cryptid, where it's from, a little bit of its, you know, type, location, earliest sighting, notable feature, that kind of thing, and just a little bit of a short story about said cryptid and the author's experience in the town. Like, he traveled all throughout the states to try and get information about these different cryptids, and it's kind of just his story, a little bit of lore. Sometimes we have eyewitness accounts, like not him interviewing, but just him like compiling eyewitness accounts of things. So here you can see, like, here's the South. It shows you all of the states that are encompassed in the South region. This was really fun. I definitely enjoyed it. There's a lot of this author is more on the like humorous side and is very obsessed with cryptid festivals, which, like, hey, no shade. I've actually been to a cryptid festival. I went to the Bigfoot festival that is hosted here in Oregon. And yeah, he does talk about how Bigfoot is like everywhere, and it's really hard to get away from Bigfoot because Bigfoot is literally in every single state. You'll find a Bigfoot. But just like talks about different things, and like some of these cryptids are very, very well known, and some of them are like most people have no idea they exist. And so he kind of deep dives into each state, and I don't know if he hits all 50 states in here, but he does hit quite a few sections, and sometimes there are multiple cryptids per state. So anyways, this was really fun. If you are a fan of cryptids, it does, like, again, it doesn't really go deep into them. It just kind of gives a brief, you know, couple page overview about what the cryptid is, what people think it might be, what experts say, what eyewitnesses say, his experience visiting the towns or the states where these cryptids are from, and how he believes that every state should have a cryptid festival and, like, you know, cryptid stuff, which I'm not in disagreement with. And one of the chapters, he does talk about the Cryptid Museum, which is in Maine. It's the International Cryptozoology Museum, which is in Portland, Maine, which, fun fact, Portland, Oregon was actually named after Portland, Maine. So I've always wanted to go to Portland, Maine, just for the fun of it. And now that I know they have a cryptid museum, I'm like, yeah, I would love to go to Portland, Maine. So anyways, if you are a fan of cryptids, this is just a really fun travel throughout the United States and learn about all the different cryptids that are here. Some are really, really bizarre, and some are like Bigfoot, you know? So anyways, that was this one. I enjoyed it. I didn't give it a rating. I normally don't rate nonfiction. If I were to rate it, it'd probably be like a 4-star or something like that. So I recommend it if you're into cryptids. It's a very easy nonfiction. It's very, I don't know, I think it was kind of humorous and super easy to just fly through really quickly. Nothing super dense or anything like that. So there's that one. The next one that was chosen for me was a card, and that was to read Buzzword. So I was picking from the Buzzword Challenge. Buzzword, hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala, if you are unaware. And this year she has both a buzzword in the title and the cover challenge. So I went with the title, and I chose a book that had punctuation in the title, and I chose Abominable Science. This is a nonfiction, basically just exploring famous cryptids, including Yeti, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. And this is by Daniel Laxton and Donald R. Prothero, I think is how they pronounced it. I didn't even get through the first chapter and was like, yeah, I just was not in the mood for this. The first chapter was just an introductory into like what cryptids are and what cryptozoology is. And for me, it really off-put me in the very, very beginning, because as author, it's really is something that I've found with some certain science books. Extremely anti-creationism and anti-New Earth thought and science. And like, that's fine if you disagree. If you're an evolutionist, that's fine. I personally am a creationist. So like, that just, there you go. But if you're an evolutionist, whatever, that's fine. You can say how, like, yeah, there is people that believe in young earth theory and creationism, and I disagree with them, blah, 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 and move on. But this guy was like out to get creationists. Like, majority of this first chapter was him just like, oh, creationist this and creationist that, and oh, they're dumb and they believe this, and how, like, I can't believe it, and they're just trying to do here and they've been failed all over the place, like, just constantly dragging on him. I'm like, dude, what does that have to do anything to do with what you're talking about? Like, a little bit, because yeah, there are some cryptids that creationists say, like, oh, they're actually dinosaurs that never died out, that they actually are still living, lived with dinosaur kind of thing. And so, like, I understand if you're like saying like, hey, that's part of it, right? And there's been things that have refuted it and whatever, but he just went on and on and on. And I'm like, bro, even if I was an evolutionist, I'm like, what does that have anything to do with the topic at hand? It's just his excuse to be like, I hate creationists. I think they're dumb, so I'm going to just crap on them for my whole first chapter of the book. And I was just like, okay, first off, it has nothing to do with cryptids, and second off, like, bro, get over yourself. Like, you don't have to believe the same as everybody, okay? It's fine. But he was like personally offended by them. I'm telling you, the way that this was written. So I was just like, okay, I'm bored with you already. Move on, bro, move on. And I just never even got to the chapter. And the thing is too, it's like the chapters were written, each chapter was written by authors, so they like took turns and went back and forth. Like, each one tackled 2 topics, I believe. And so the next one was about Bigfoot, and it wasn't even written by the same author who wrote the thing where he was like crapping on the creationists or whatever. But I was just like bored, and was like, no. And it was written more like textbook style too, and I was like, I don't really want to read a textbook about something like that's supposed to be fun in cryptids, but you're like literally not even talking about cryptids because you're so obsessed with disproving creationism. Bro, you can write a whole separate book about that if you want. Like, that is totally your prerogative. But I just, like, it annoyed me. So, maybe I took it too personally, I don't know, but I just really felt like this guy was like hardcore out for creationists when it's like, this is supposed to be a cryptid book, dude. Anyways, so needless to say, I didn't read that. I'm not even counting it as a DNF. I'm not even counting it as read because I didn't even finish the first chapter. I like read a few pages and it's like, whatever. I didn't like the tone anyways. Like, even the parts that were not about the creationism, whatever, I just was like, this is boring. Not interested. So moving on from that, then I had to read a thriller, and I decided to pick The Crash by Frida McFadden. This is her newest release, or newest release at the time of reading it, I think. I don't know, she might have come up with something since then, but I believe it came out in spring. And this is basically about a woman who crashes in a blizzard, and she like crashed her car, hurts herself, and is rescued by this couple, goes to their cabin, and ends up finding out that maybe there's some reasons why, she'd be safer in the blizzard than in the cabin. Premise sounded quite interesting. This is the most boring thriller I've ever read in my life. Guys, I DNF'd this book. I maybe got 50% through. I don't know. I do count DNFs towards my game. Anyways, I DNF'd it. It was so boring. I was so bored. I'm like, this is a thriller? Frida McFadden is supposed to be a popcorn thriller author. This is the first book I've ever read by her, so it's possible like just this one just didn't hit with me, and like I'm still planning on picking up some of her other ones to see if it's her writing or if it was just this book. But oh my gosh, this woman. Okay, first off, the main character, she's pregnant, and she just went on and on and on about how she's pregnant, and like I don't have an issue with that, okay? I personally don't have kids, but I have nothing against kids. I'm still undecided if I want children or not. Like, children are still a possibility for me in the future. So I literally have no issues with pregnancy or mothers in stories, okay? Let's just get that out of the way first off. Because when I talk about it, it might sound like I do. But this woman was so constantly, like every other sentence, she's like, I'm pregnant. Oh, my baby. Oh, like, and she called her Tuna because she was like craving tuna fish. So she's like, oh, baby Tuna. And baby Tuna would talk to her and be like, oh, mommy, I don't like this man. He scares me, mommy. Like, be careful, mommy. And like, this is how like the audiobook narrator was talking. And mommy, I'm hungry. Okay, look, I've never been pregnant. Maybe this is true to life and I'm just being ridiculous. But I need to see if Freedom McFadden has children or not. Because if she doesn't, I want to be like, girl. It just drove me insane how much it was like, it was literally a pregnancy story, you know. And like, I get it, when you're pregnant, like obviously you want to protect your baby and your baby is very important to you. I understand that. Like, I'm not against that at all. And I've read books with pregnant women who are in terrible situations and they're having to protect their unborn child, and like, that's fine. For whatever reason, this one just grated on me so much. It was so obnoxious and boring. Nothing happened. They kept talking about all these things, and like when she was in this cabin with these people, and you're getting this perspective of the woman who is quote unquote trapped there and the wife of the man who rescued her, and we're getting their perspectives, and we find out that like maybe, you know, the woman who is trapped, her perspective on things aren't quite what is actually reality. And like, it was interesting, and that was like, oh, that I could see where the plot was going, and I was like, that could be a very interesting story, because like maybe perceptions are perceived differently and you can kind of understand how there could be confusion there. But I just didn't care. I just didn't care, and I was so bored, and I'm like, this is a thriller and I'm bored, y'all. That is not good. That is really not good. So I DNF'd it. I am willing to give her another try. I know she's quite polarizing as an author. People either love her or hate her. This one definitely didn't work for me. Probably one of the worst thrillers I've ever read, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't DNF thrillers often. Like, I have 2-star thrillers that I've read that I still finish because like I didn't like it, but I needed to know what happened. This one I could care less. So that's like really bad. I'm still gonna give The Housemaid a try and some of her other like really popular ones, because like maybe it was just this book, but my gosh. I mean, I was gonna say, maybe if you're like someone who's just getting into thrillers, even then, no, just don't even bother. It was so bad. Okay, and the last one that I had to read was a graphic novel, and I chose The Woman in the Woods, and this is by multiple Indigenous authors. This, unfortunately for me, was just a 3-star. There were some stories in here that were like 2 stars, and some like maybe one story that was a 4-star. There was no 5-star stories in here. Most of the stories in here were 3 stars, so I just rated the whole book as a 3-star. It's a collection of short stories by different authors and artists, so the artwork was different throughout each story. I was really looking forward to it. I'm really disappointed that this did not work for me, as this is something that you would think would be like really, you know, up my alley. I do love Native stories and works and stuff like that, but I just was bored and just was like, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. It was just, I wasn't a fan of the storytelling. Nothing really stood out to me. The one story I liked was the Rougarou story. I thought that one was really well told. The artwork was really pretty. But other than that, I was like, I didn't really care. Some of them like I actively disliked. So unfortunately, this one was a flop for me. 3-star means just okay. Won't ever think about it again. Quite honestly, after this video. Yeah, unfortunately it didn't work, but it, you know, it is what it is. There you go. That's it. That is my September Jurassic TBR wrap up. Those are all of the books that I was supposed to read and, you know, read. I did pretty good, I think. You know, I only didn't get to 2, and one I at least tried and was like, this is boring. And then obviously, like I said, DNF'd one, and it was just, let's not talk about that book, because yikes, it was bad. It was really bad, guys. I'm sorry. It was bad. Like, if you're a Frida fan, I apologize. Again, this is my very first book by her. Maybe this was just a flop. Like I said, I will read more to see what I think of her works. Maybe she's like Riley Sager and some of the books are great and some of the books are horrible. I don't know. But there you have it all. There is my Jurassic TBR wrap up. Those are all the books that I read for my TBR in September. Like I said, I have read a lot more books outside of that specific TBR, which I will talk about in separate videos. I am working on editing some vlogs that are going up, and a lot of these books that I've talked about even in this video will be discussed more in depth in those vlogs. So if you want to know more about my in-moment thoughts, you can check those out. I don't know when they're gonna be posted, guys, but I'm gonna do my best, I promise, to get them up as soon as possible. Linked in the description will be my Jurassic TBR for September if you guys want to watch it to kind of get a refresher on my game, and I'll put my playlist and all of the things down below. You can follow me on social medias. Basically, I'm only active here on YouTube and Instagram mostly. I have a Twitter, but I haven't looked at it in years, so I probably should just delete that off my thing. But Goodreads, I'm on Goodreads, I'm on Storygraph. If you guys guys are interested in knowing like real-time updates on what I'm reading and what my ratings are, follow me over on Goodreads or Storygraph, because I try to stay up to date on that quite frequently. I am probably the most active on there as far as updating than like anywhere else, because life is rough. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please do consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I'm really trying to grow my channel, and it would mean a whole heck of a lot to me if you would subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books, if any of them sound interesting to you, if you want me to try and be more articulate in my descriptions and thoughts of these books, or if you don't care. I don't know. I need to figure out what works for me as far as wrap-ups go. I'm still kind of experimenting with that, so give me grace because I definitely need it. And if you've made it this far in the video and would like to leave an emoji, leave a butterfly, because my notebook has butterflies. It has nothing to do with anything I talked about, but this is a notebook I wrote my notes down in, or my, you know, whatever. So leave a butterfly emoji in the comments. Plus they're pretty and I like butterflies. So yeah, you can leave that down in the comments if you want to let me know you're here, but maybe don't have anything else to say. But if you do have something to say, please comment. I love interacting with you guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, and let me know about these books. Love them, hate them, not interested, now you're interested, you were interested, now you're not interested, anything. Just talk to me. Talk to me down in the comments. I'd love to interact with y'all. Thank you again for watching, you guys, and I really hope to see you in my next video. Bye.